Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is our today's second talk about the lecture related to the adrenocorticoids and their antagonist. Yesterday we have seen that the three different layers of the adrenal cortex, they release different types of steroidal hormones, and according to their function they have been classified as glucocorticoids, mineralocorticoids and the adrenal androgens. Then yesterday we have seen also how the negative feedback mechanism, through the negative feedback mechanism, the released cortisol will inhibit the hypothalamus as well as the anterior pituitary, so that the CRH and ACTH respectively should not be released and should not stimulate further to the adrenal cortex. Then yesterday we discussed in detail about the glucocorticoids, the pharmacological effect, their doses. Today we'll start with the therapeutic uses of the glucocorticoids, then we'll jump over to the mineralocorticoids and their antagonists. So, very naturally, the first thing which will come in everybody's mind is that they could be used in place if there's a deficiency of these cortisol is taking place. Yes, that's very natural. So, as a replacement therapy, the artificial glucocorticoids, which we have seen yesterday, short acting, intermediate acting, and long acting glucocorticoids, cortisol, hydrocortisone, fludrocortisone, prednisolone, methylprednisolone, dexamethasone, betamethasone, they could be used as a replacement therapy in case of deficiency. If the body could not able to synthesize the natural cortisol, then these artificial glucocorticoids could be used as a replacement therapy. This is one of the great application of the exogenous glucocorticoids. There are certain diseases like Addison's disease, in which the adrenal cortex could not able to release sufficient amount of the cortisol because it could not respond properly to the adrenocorticotropic hormone, which is going to be released from the anterior pituitary. So those patients who will be suffering from Addison's disease, they will be suffering from the hypotension, weakness, lean body mass, their weight will be less, could not able to maintain blood sugar level during fasting, during starvation. So generally exogenous hydrocortisone will be given to the person suffering from the Addison's disease, and generally we give early in the morning because we have seen yesterday that the natural cortisol will be released in the morning, so we copy it. 2/3 will be given in the morning, 1/3 will be given in the afternoon, and fluid cortisone will also be given because when we give exogenous hydrocortisone, deficiency of the natural mineralocorticoid will be taken. So exogenous fludrocortisone will also be given to compensate the deficiency of the mineralocorticoid in the body. So this is one of the great application of the glucocorticoids, that they could be used in the as a replacement therapy in the Addison's disease. Then the next is the another replacement therapy for the secondary or tertiary adrenocorticoid insufficiency. Generally, this type of insufficiency of the adrenocorticoids will be taking place from the center, from the hypothalamus. If the CRH production will be decreased or abnormal, then ultimately the target organ, the adrenal cortex will not be sufficiently stimulated, and there will be a deficiency. Hydrocortisone will be taking place. In such type of situation, we also give the exogenous hydrocortisone to replenish the reduced level of the natural cortisol, natural adrenocorticoids, natural glucocorticoids. Then another replacement therapy is for the congenital adrenal hyperplasia. This is not a single disease, it is a group of complications, group of disease. In this kind, hyperplasia, the name itself suggests that the cells of adrenal gland, particularly the adrenal cortex, will be growing in a large number. Hyperplasia is there. As a result, in this group of diseases, there will be an excessive production of sometimes androgens in the females will be taking place, which will definitely leads to the feminine characteristics will change to the male characteristics, excessive hair growth, virilization of the voice, and all these will be taking place in the female. So in such type of congenital hyperplasia, we give exogenous glucocorticoids. Now you may think that already there is a hyperplasia. That means already there is a overproduction. Now why we are giving for more exogenous glucocorticoids? For this, you should refer to the previous slide when we have discussed about the negative feedback system, negative feedback loop. So when we give the exogenous glucocorticoid, this negative feedback system will be stimulated, which will suppress the release of CRH from hypothalamus and ACTH from the anterior pituitary. Now the adrenal cortex will not get stimulated, and all the three steroidal hormones, glucocorticoids, mineralocorticoids, and adrenal androgens, their production, their release will be suppressed. This is the logic why we use in the congenital adrenal hyperplasia the exogenous glucocorticoids. Then we also have not only the therapeutic use, we also use it for the diagnosis purpose. Even at the beginning we have told this. Thus for the diagnosis of the Cushing syndrome also we use the glucocorticoids. You know what is Cushing syndrome? It is a classical syndrome takes place generally due to the overproduction of the cortisol or over administration of the exogenous glucocorticoids. Due to the exogenous drug, we called it iatrogenic Cushing syndrome, in which the classical features will be the moon face, buffalo hump, central obesity, the thinning of the extremities due to the lipolysis, losing of the skin, wound healing will not be taking place. All these are the classical features of Cushing syndrome, which generally take place due to the overproduction of the glucocorticoids from the adrenal cortex. The ultimate treatment will be the surgery, where the tumor producing ACTH or cortisols will be eradicated. But in the diagnosis of the Cushing syndrome also, we use this diagnosis by the dexamethasone test. At the night, patient will be administered with the dexamethasone, and early morning around 8 a.m. the plasma samples will be taken and the level of the dexamethasone, the cortisol will be checked in the patient. If it is above 3, then the patient will be diagnosed with the Cushing syndrome. If it is less than 3, that is normal. He is not suffering from the Cushing syndrome. So apart from replacement therapy, we also use the corticosteroids, the glucocorticoids for the diagnosis of the Cushing syndrome. Then another clinical use of the glucocorticoids, it is very beautifully fact change. Life-saving if therapeutic use of glucocorticoid is the maturation of the lungs in the premature babies. See, lung maturation will take place at the time of birth. When the complete term will be taking place, the baby is about to born. At that time, the lung will mature so that when they born, when they came out of womb, they could able to. But in case of the premature birth, if the birth is expected to be before 34th week of gestation, in this situation, the lungs will not be mature, and such premature babies will suffer from the problem called as acute respiratory distress syndrome. Many premature babies dies if they will not get sufficient, appropriate outer support for the breathing. In such situation, the glucocorticoids are showing very good effect. Generally, mother will be receiving 2 doses of betamethasone or dexamethasone at an interval of 24 hours if we are expecting that the birth will be premature. Then these long-acting glucocorticoids will make the lungs mature. So even if the baby born prematurely, their lungs will be mature, they could breathe and they will not be suffering from the acute respiratory distress syndrome. So this is one of the very life-saving therapeutic use of the glucocorticoids. Then apart from their therapeutic uses related to their hormonal effect, the glucocorticoids are also supposed to be a very strong and potent anti-inflammatory and immunosuppressant. And generally, they are more commonly being used for this effect than their replacement therapy. Because Addison's disease, hyperplasia, adrenalic hyperplasia, they are not so common compared to the allergic reaction, inflammatory reactions, different types of inflammation, and uh, excess immunity related disorders. They are more common. So for that purpose, corticoids are more commonly being used. Generally in various inflammatory disorders where hyperimmunity also playing a role, glucocorticoids are showing very prominent effect in fact, like rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, allergic rhinitis, asthma, inflammation of the bowel, inflammatory bowel diseases, inflammation of the skin, pruritus, urticaria, itching. Then prevention of the organ rejection after the organ transplant surgery. In all these situations, the glucocorticoids are showing extreme beneficial effects due to their anti-inflammatory and immunosuppressive effect. In asthma, allergic rhinitis, we use them by the as an inhaler. In osteoarthritis, directly injections could be given in the joints. Intra-articular injection can be given. Intermediate acting glucocorticoids like methylprednisolone. So they have multiple beneficial effects due to their anti-inflammatory and immunosuppressive effect in the various disease and disorders where inflammation and hyperimmunity is taking a major role. Same thing. In the eyes, we can also apply them topically. In asthma, we use them. They will be affecting on the lungs. the renal disorders, etc. We can use them in the multiple for their multiple beneficial therapeutic effects. Then this is just the summary of the therapeutic uses. As a replacement therapy, we can use the glucocorticoids either for the Addison's disease or adrenal hyperplasia, etc. For anti-inflammatory immunosuppressive effect for different types of allergic reactions, allergic complications, inflammatory disorders. We use them, we have just seen. As well as for the suppression of this hypothalamic pituitary adrenocortical suppression due to their negative feedback system. As in the case of adrenal hyperplasia, we also use the glucocorticoids. So they have multiple beneficial effects. Remember that they should not be given for a very long period of time as well as in the very high doses. Adverse effects. Let us see the adverse effects of the glucocorticoids. They are generally dose related and duration related. They will produce insomnia, loss of sleep, as well as due to their immunosuppressant effect. Peptic ulcers, mostly due to the H. pylori induced peptic ulcers, are very commonly seen in the patients. The glucocorticoids will be taken for less than 15 days, less than 2 weeks. These effects will not become very serious, but if they are taken for a long period of time, then iatrogenic Cushing syndrome will be taking place. In the diabetic persons, severe hyperglycemia can be taking place. In the children's, retardation of the growth will be taking place. Deficiency of potassium will be taking place. Even hypomania can be taking place. So in the long term, the adverse effects are really devastating. Even in the topical therapy, atrophy of the skin can also be taking place. Striking, stick marking can be seen over the place where the steroids are, glucocorticoids being applied. These are the long-term effects we have seen. Decreased growth in the children's, osteoporosis in usually more severe in the females, decreased level of the WBCs due to their anti-immunosuppressant effect, increase the glucose level, reduce potassium level, increase pressure due to the fluid and water deposit, electrolyte and water reabsorption, euphoria and hypomania, redistribution of the fat and iatrogenic Cushing syndrome can be taking place. So multiple severe adverse effects can be seen with the glucocorticoids if they will be given for more than 2 weeks. That's why we have to take a lot of precautions. For those patients who are taking the glucocorticoids, they should be carefully monitored for multiple things which are indicator that adverse effects are becoming serious, like blood sugar level, sugar level in the urine, glycosuria, edema or hypertension in the body, deficiency of potassium, hypokalemia, ulcer production, pain in the abdomen, as well as osteoporosis, which is more important in the females after the age of menopause, and hidden infection. Because generally the glucocorticoids will produce a blanket effect, so under that many serious infections can be grow. Then diabetic patients, we should be very careful because hyperglycemia will be induced by the glucocorticoids. If we could not avoid, then we have to adjust the dose of insulin or other oral hypoglycemic drugs. Adrenal suppression because of the negative feedback system. If we give the glucocorticoids for more than 2 weeks, then body will stop synthesizing its own adrenal hormones because of the negative feedback system. And if we suddenly stop it, there will be a complete scarcity and adrenal insufficiency will be observed. So to avoid that, tapering of the dose should be required, and if possible, the drug should not be given for more than 2 weeks. The calcium and vitamin deficiency will be observed because it will interfere with the absorption. So we have to administer the extra doses of the vitamin D and calcium to the patient to avoid osteoporosis. Very important thing here, if the patient is receiving glucocorticoids at least for more than 3 weeks, don't stop it suddenly. We have to go for tapering of dose. That means we are supposed to gradually decrease the dose till the body will start developing its own adrenal hormones, and then the adrenal insufficiency should not be taking place. Otherwise, this problem will be there. So we should not stop it suddenly. We should gradually do the tapering of the dose, gradually decrease the dose, and then stop it. Then the second hormones which will be released from the adrenal cortex is the mineralocorticoids. The natural mineralocorticoid is the aldosterone, which is also known as the antidiuretic hormone, whereas fludrocortisone is the same synthetic the synthetic hormone. It will be act as a aldosterone as a mineralocorticoids. The mineralocorticoids, natural as well as the fludrocortisone, they will be working through the mineralocorticoids, and their major target will be the nephron. The natural aldosterone will be releasing from the zona glomerulosa, and generally it is stimulated by not only from the ACTH but also from the renin-angiotensin aldosterone axis. We know very well, we have seen it when we discuss the antihypertensive drugs and other cardiovascular drugs. Once this aldosterone will be released, it will be acting as a antidiuretic hormone, and it will facilitate the reabsorption of sodium and potassium. Generally, it will reabsorb sodium and water and excrete the potassium. Whereas in case of excessive release of aldosterone from the zona glomerulosa, there is a edema will be taking place in the body due to more reabsorption of sodium and water, whereas hypokalemia will be taking place, loss of potassium from the body will be taking place, and that will be due to increase in the volume of the blood. Hypertension will be induced by the hyperaldosteronism. Fludrocortisone is a synthetic compound which is acting like aldosterone. It is having both activity of mineralocorticoid as well as the glucocorticoid, and that's why generally used in the treatment of adrenal insufficiency, which is accompanied with mineralocorticoid deficiency, because this will be replaced and act as both glucocorticoid as well as a mineralocorticoid. So this is the clinical use of the fludrocortisone. Then let us see the inhibitors or antagonists of the glucocorticoids. So these are the example. Ketoconazole, it is antifungal drug from the azole class. It is also working as an inhibitor of the glucocorticoids. Then mifepristone, mifepristone. Spironolactone is a specific antagonist of the mineralocorticoid aldosterone. Eplerenone, which is antagonist of the aldosterone. These are the antagonists or blockers of the adrenal hormones. Ketoconazole is a very potent inhibitor which will interfere with the synthesis of the adrenal and the gonadal hormones. Generally, it is not used as a systemic antifungal drug due to its anti-androgenic side effect. But in the Cushing syndrome, we still use ketoconazole to suppress the synthesis and release of the glucocorticoids. Mitaropon is also used against the Cushing syndrome and generally used in the female if they are pregnant as a safer drug. Although in the female, its adverse effects will be the excessive hair growth, hirsutism, and more water retention, which increase the pressure. This metaropon also interfere with the synthesis of the natural cortisol glucocorticoids. Mifepristone. This drug is used as a contraceptive contragestive agent. Whereas high doses of mifepristone can also block the overactivity of the glucocorticoids. It will work as a blocker of the glucocorticoids. It do not interfere with the synthesis but work at the receptor level and work as an antagonist. Generally also given in the management of the Cushing syndrome until the surgery will be performed. This drug also has been abused due to its contraceptive effect worldwide. Then the antagonist of mineralocorticoids. So we have two, spironolactone and the eplerenone. They are the specific antagonist of the aldosterone, which is the example of the mineralocorticoid. Both work as a receptor antagonist. They do not interfere with the synthesis of aldosterone. Spironolactone also work as an antagonist at the mineralocorticoid receptor, but to some extent it also inhibits the synthesis of testosterone and the aldosterone. That's why generally gynecomastia is the side effect reported from the spironolactone. And we have first discussed about the clinical use. Generally, spironolactone is used in the management of hyperaldosteronism. Very natural, it is as an antagonist as well as inhibiting the synthesis of aldosterone. So in case hyperaldosteronism, it is used. Sometimes it is also used in the female to overcome the problem of hirsutism, excessive hair growth. Because of its anti-testosterone effect, is to inhibit the synthesis of testosterone. The drug is also being used in the management of hypertension as a diuretic, as in the management of heart failure to decrease the congestion. The major adverse effects of the spironolactone is the gynecomastia, skin rashes, as well as in the female disturbances in the menstrual cycle and hyperkalemia. Due to hyperkalemia, arrhythmia can be induced by the spironolactone. Whereas eplerenone is a cogner of the spironolactone, which is working as an antagonist of the aldosterone receptor. It is not interfere with the synthesis. And generally, it is an approved drug for the treatment of hypertension and the heart failure because it will not interfere with the synthesis of testosterone. No gynecomastia will be taking place by the eplerenone. So this is all about the adrenocorticoids and their antagonist. If you have any doubt, you are free, you could ask me. Thank you.